Travis Wayne Goodsell, Oleodendroglia. Anybody remember that from, I guess it was anatomy? I think it's in the year. I just remember it. The high school teacher who taught me that would do in-class pop quizzes where he'd have his little book thing out with all our names, and then he could put a little dot next to the name if we were asked a question and we got it right. And if we got it wrong, he would say, "Good thought, no dot." Matthew 13. Starting in 53. And it came to pass that when Jesus had finished these parables, he departed thence. And when he was come into his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, insomuch that they were astonished, and said, Whence hath this man this wisdom, and these mighty works? Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Love, an Egyptian? And his brethren, Peter, James, Jose, and Judah? James, Jose, Simon, Judah. I'm not making this up. And his sisters. Wow, one big family. Happy, right? Are they not all with us? Whence then hath this man all these things? And they were offended in him. But Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not without honor. That's a double negative. So take out the negatives, and you have a prophet is with honor, save in his own country and in his own house. Judah betrayed him. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. So, Mormons, I'm sure you're familiar with how you're supposed to hate the prophets of the church, right? Prophets are hated in his own church, by his own people, by his own family. That's what a prophet's supposed to do, is be the sacrificial man for God, putting God over family. Family is not first in the church, right? Right? 48. Doctrine and Covenants, section 45. Starting in verse 49. Halfway in the end of the sentence. And they that have laughed shall see their folly. This is the Lord, sets his foot on the mount. I've already gone over, this is code, not necessary for this part. And calamity shall cover the mocker, and the scorner shall be consumed. Why? Because the Lord's now there. And they that have watched for iniquity shall be hewn down and cast into the fire. And then shall the code Jews look upon me and say, Whence are these wounds in thy hands and in thy feet? Then shall they know that I am the Lord. Oh, crap. They've been laughing, mocking, scorning, and watching for iniquity. And there he is. But code for Jews. For I will say unto them, These wounds are the wounds with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. His friends betray him? Just like in Matthew that I just read. And then shall they weep because of their iniquities. Then shall they lament, because they persecuted their king. So again, it's an interesting, fascinating thing that Mormons would rather debase themselves to show that they love the prophet rather than expose themselves as wicked and hate the prophet. Isn't that fascinating? Interesting thing that Mormons have created to justify wickedness. So, what else is a prophet besides being hated by his own people, of his own church, by his own family? Well, he does not contradict the Book of Mormon. Did you know that? We're not talking about the leader of the church, just regular prophets. We'll get to the leader soon, hopefully. This may be too long, but we'll see. But the Book of Mormon. What is the Book of Mormon, Mormons? Keystone of Mormonism. Why is it a keystone, and what is a keystone? Yeah, it's the primary source documentation for the religion. And the Book of Mormon is that for Mormonism. And so, if a prophet were to come around and say, nope, the Book of Mormon's false, I'm now the president of the church, and I now dictate what's truth. Follow me, don't follow the Book of Mormon. Remember those 14 fundamentals that I did a video of, and Benson dismissed the Book of Mormon for the current living president of the church? Oops! Not supposed to listen to him either, because he was just an elder at the time he gave it in the BYU devotional. Section 43. Let's go to that. Not too far away from it. Hearken, O ye elders of my church. Then a little switch of the O. And give ear to the words which I shall speak unto you. Who are the elders of the church? Well, even the prophets are elders, right? So, Melchizedek priesthood holders. For behold, verily, verily, I say unto you, that ye have received a commandment for a law unto my church, through him whom I have appointed unto you to receive commandments and revelations from my hand. So that's Brigham Young, right? No! Joseph! Brigham Young is among the elders. And this ye shall surely know assuredly, that there is none other appointed unto you to receive commandments and revelations. So is Brigham Young appointed? Joseph says no. But verily, verily, I say unto you, that none else shall be appointed unto this gift, except it be through him. He, Joseph Smith, is the one required for establishing the succession. So here we come to another thing that Mormons have created to justify things. For if he be taken, assassinated in Carthage jail, he shall not have power except to appoint another in his stead. Well, Joseph already did that at section 107, verse 22. However, nobody liked that. Nobody wanted to follow that. And so instead, you have all these people, including Brigham Young, who all claimed Joseph had, right before he died, appointed them to lead the church after his assassination. That coincidence. Who do we follow? Oh no, they all were appointed? The only one who didn't, and this is important for Mormons to understand, if you've been watching my videos on the real church history, there is only one person who did not claim succession: Sidney Rigdon. He did go and form his own church. He had done that before joining. But he wanted to be the overseer, not the president of the church. He did not want to succeed Joseph Smith. Brigham Young, however, said that Joseph Smith had a special meeting with the whole 12 missionaries, not High Council. That 12 was a different. Alpheus Cutler came out of that one saying, well, Joseph's told me to wait until a certain sign in the heaven for the establishment of his church, restoration of his church. Brigham Young, he claimed that Joseph Smith had a special meeting, and of course all of his buddies, of whom Willard Richards and John Taylor were a part of, the ones that murdered Joseph and Hiram, they said, oh yeah, Brigham Young's telling the truth. Yeah, Brigham Young's right. He did. Yeah. And then you had James Strang. He was able to convince a couple of popular people in the church. He had a letter from Joseph Smith saying, oh, unto you, James Strang, you're going to be the president of the church when I'm gone. All power and authority is given unto you. And James Strang one-upped it. He claimed to have found buried treasure plates in an ancient language, and he translated them. So, yeah, he one-upped Brigham Young. Two-upped Brigham Young, technically. He took them to an island out in the Michigan lakes, and once there, he said, hey guys, I'm getting revelation that we should practice polygamy. He was instantly murdered, and nobody revealed who did it. And that was the end of that one. And so, yes, polygamy is the true doctrine, right? Because Mormons murdered somebody who wanted to practice it, whereas Brigham Young and his followers were like, oh yeah, polygamy, yeah, If you don't do polygamy, you're not going to go to the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. See, we altered the documentation and to prove it. Of course, they don't do this openly. That would be too easy to recognize false prophets. But here we have the reason why only the president of the church is supposed to be listened to, not Oakes, who's trying to make new doctrinal changes and contrary to the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants of Joseph. Notice I said of Joseph. John Taylor had added some polygamy passages. They had to be removed with the Edmunds Tucker Act. But because Brigham Young, I didn't want to do that, had put in section 132 right before he died, and claimed that it was from Joseph, the United States said, all right, fine, you can keep that one, but you can't practice it. But yeah, that's where the FLDS church comes in, is that, oh yeah, we've got these secret revelations. That's how the Mormons of the Brighamite branch, they justify the FLDS church as wrong and evil, denying that John Taylor had ever received revelations for polygamy. And thus the FLDS church said, oh no, John Taylor was the true prophet, we're going to follow him. We're not going to follow that wicked Wilford Woodruff with his official declaration, shutting down the church, caving into the United States when they're our enemy. We need to destroy America. But we have to wait until a certain sign in the heavens, as Alpheus Cutler knew. And so, yeah. And even Emma, she even said her son was supposed to be the successor to Joseph. And that may have been correct. Had he not been assassinated, been able to grow up, and thus his son grow up, and thus everybody would love his son, and according to section 107 verse 22, appoint him as successor upon his father's death. But nobody did what this says. And so here's the law. You shall receive not the teachings of any, not Oakes, not Irene, not Packer, Holland. I don't think I can go through them. None of them. And thus, not Brigham Young. That shall come before you as revelations or commandments. Did you know that Brigham Young came out with a revelation and commandment upon his death? Joseph's death? The reason for not listening to these people is that ye may not be deceived, that you may know they are not of me. So Brigham Young, let's see, is it... nope. 32. No. Huh. Yeah, here it is. But remember, don't listen to Brigham Young. Joseph Smith himself said it in section 43. Only listen to those who have followed and are appointed and approved through section 107 verse 22. And yet, Brigham Young, the word and will of the Lord concerning the camp of Israel and their journeyings into the west. Huh. Yeah. We thank thee, O God, for a false prophet to lead us and guide us to hell. We thank thee for sending 10 virgins and wish they were little red-headed girls. Yep. So yeah, you don't contradict established doctrine. Brigham Young has completely violated the Book of Mormon. Understand what he did, and then go and look at just the Great and Abominable Church. Compare the two. So then, they don't set themselves up as another master. This is why they don't contradict established doctrine. They don't give their own revelations and commandments. They're not another master. And we'll get into it with the president, but the Mormons have been fooled into thinking, oh yeah, he's another master we have to follow. Oh yeah, we have to follow the 12. Oh, we have to follow the 70. Oh, we have to follow the stake president and our bishop and our elders quorum president, high priest group leader, or the elders quorum president. And, oh, the mission or the home teachers. We don't have those anymore. Whew, thank goodness. One less master in the church. But then the husband? Ah, patriarchal authority. It's the woman who's supposed to lead the home. The man is supposed to be in bondage. Yes, like there's no other option. It's either a patriarchy or a matriarchy. There's no other possible solution. Like, no masters other than following the Spirit. And so again, Mormons know, but they're not catching on to the contradictions that are in the church. Because Brigham Young, as I went over, Joseph Smith said, he's not authorized. Alright, so we can also know them. And Matthew says by their fruits, and if you've never read Matthew, you've most likely read the Book of Mormon, where it says you shall know them by their fruits. See, almost exact word for word. There may be a slight word here or there, like the instead of a, or something like that. The errors will still carry over. But, yeah, their results. They speak things. If you follow them, as you wrongfully believe they're another master to follow, what are the results of following them? What happens by doing it? Okay, Nelson said, I'm opening up the church. Go back to church. We care about your safety. Go back to church. Yeah. Yesterday was the coronavirus stats for church attendance on Sunday. Yeah. It's heartbreaking. Because week after week after week, I'm recognizing the jump in children for Sunday. And so yes, there was a jump in the number of infected, but it was countered with the number of paranoid Mormons here in Utah who got tested out of their paranoia. Did I get infected? Oh, I must be infected. No, you're not infected. Get the hell out of here. And so those other people who were not infected, who thought they were infected, kept the percentage lower. But the numbers went up. The number of children went up. They weren't in school. They were at church. Church is a super spreader. Nelson has said, you got to go to church. I've got the church open for you. You need to go to church. And Mormons who obey go to church. And what happens? They get infected. They die. It's not complicated. But that's with the comparison. And I don't know if I'm going to get to it because I'm already at 23 minutes. So maybe we'll do this video as a primer for the big event. The Battle of the Prophets. Another thing about prophets, Amos 3:7. All Mormons know that. That's a scripture mastery for seminary, institute, mission. It's a major thing. It's covered in all lessons in the church. And it's incorrectly translated, not just in English, but from the Hebrew. But it's sufficient that everybody understands it, that a prophet warns in advance before something happens. You know, like the flood. Noah was warned in advance before the flood. And in our Mormon version, by Sidney Rigdon, you didn't know that? Oh, but it's the Joseph Smith translation. I don't know why that evil Community of Christ Church calls it the Joseph Smith revision. It was Sidney Rigdon. When Sidney Rigdon joined in December, Joseph Smith immediately put him to work on the revision of the King James Version of the Bible. And so, because the Community of Christ called it a revision, the Mormons, when they had to put it in their scriptures in 1981, they called it the Joseph Smith translation. So as not to be confused. And so, but yeah, you've been deceived. The church is telling you it's a translation. It's not. It's a revision. And then the church is saying it was Joseph Smith. It's not. It was Sidney Rigdon. That was payment for him writing the Book of Mormon. I'm sure Mormons have already left. So I'm just talking to believers right now. But yeah, Sidney Rigdon wrote the Book of Mormon. Not Joseph. He had nothing to do with it. Just like he had nothing to do with the revision of the Bible. And that was his payment. Because they couldn't pay him, they had to get Martin Harris to pay for the publication of the book. And so how do they pay Sidney Rigdon? Well, they have to get him into the church so that he can have a larger speaking audience to give sermons, and he was able to do what he wanted to do, what he left the Campbellites for. Alexander Campbell only wanted to revise the New Testament. Sidney Rigdon says, no, the Old Testament are the prophecies for the New Testament. We have to revise them to make them harmonized. And Alexander said, no, it's my church. We'll do it my way or the highway. And Sidney Rigdon says, fine, I'm taking my things and leaving. And so Sidney Rigdon had his own church out in Ohio, and knew the Smiths, and the Smiths, all of a sudden, for some reason, after 1826, some incident occurred that year that required the Smiths to be involved in a book publication. Yeah, but I digress. And so, yeah, it was compensation. But prophets warn in advance of danger. I know there's a video on YouTube that quotes from Spencer W. Kimball, who says, we may not reveal anything at the second coming. We may be quiet. We may not allow you to see the fruits of our falsehood, as you will die because we didn't warn you in advance. So, yeah, that's another. They have to warn in advance. They can't claim to be true prophets of God as, oh, whoops, I never saw that coming. Section 101 of the Doctrine and Covenants is the parable. And as ordered by God, you're supposed to protect the flock. You're supposed to have a tower, and this is all parable stuff, and a fence to protect the flock. The shepherds, however, yeah, they got lazy. And they flee when the enemy comes. Oh no, a wolf! Run away! Oh wait, I'm a wolf. Why am I running away? And so, yeah. And so, going back to the Great and Abominable Church, yeah, you're not supposed to enslave your members. You're supposed to let them be free. But again, you're supposed to preach out against evil. So if they just choose the wrong, instead of having CTR, and it's CTW, or as Mormons have turned it into, corrupt the righteous. And you're not supposed to murder. The great and abominable church murders the saints. Saints didn't start until Joseph's organization. What? Why is the Book of Mormon talking about this? If it's the Catholic Church, as Bruce Armour Conkey said in Mormon Doctrine, which had to be edited a billion times, and is now no longer published by the church, and they considered saints to be special, elite, mystical, magical people, like St. Patrick for my birthday. He was supposedly the one who chased out the snakes out of Ireland, long after the snakes had already been chased out of Ireland. That kind of thing. That's how saints were chosen, as they create a myth about them. And that myth then qualifies them to be labeled a saint. And so regular Catholics aren't saints. It's not talking about regular Catholics, it's talking about the saints. And if you're going to interpret it as Catholics, as the great and abominable church, it doesn't fit. And so, great and abominable church is something else, and it's referring to the saints. You're not supposed to murder your people. And, let's see, part of preaching against evil is you're supposed to preach love, not hate. So you can't be a racist, you can't be a bigot, you can't be a sexist, you can't have any other kind of hate speech. You can't have the homeless exterminated because you don't like them hanging around Temple Square. Love, the one great commandment, you sort of have to follow it. You can't say, well, I'm the president of the church now, we're now espousing evil. That's the one great commandment. Hate. Yay. Follow me. What are the consequences of hate? Yeah, you'll know real quickly he's not a true prophet. But no priestcraft. Great and Abominable Church does it. It's defined in the Book of Mormon in great detail. You're not supposed to hoard money for your church, live a lavish lifestyle, getting paychecks. If you're familiar with Irene's paycheck that got leaked, as members of the church are suffering. But, hey, the church prophets have an explanation for that. It's the wickedness of Mormons. If they were righteous, they would prosper. Screw the story about the Zoramites. So, this is not a complicated doctrine. Mormonism is simple. It's easy. But when you have corrupt leaders, corrupt prophets, they all of a sudden make it complicated. Oh, I don't know. The prophet says this. I don't know. We'll wait until the millennium. We'll wait until we're dead. Then we'll find out the truth. Alright. So, 10 Commandments, need to be followed. Except for Sabbath. Travis, no! You gotta follow the Sabbath and keep it holy. It's a Babylonian holiday. That's an anachronism in the Bible, and thus in the Book of Mormon, with the Benedai. The Babylonians were the ones who invented the 7-day week in their calendars. And because they believed that the number 7 was bad luck, anything having to do with 7, the 7th son of a 7th son, Iron Maiden, or the 7th day of the week, was therefore considered superstitious, and nobody was allowed to work on the seventh day, and thus it was a day of rest, and thus rest and Sabbath are similar in Semitic. But Paleo-Hebrew Jews, Israelites, no, they were Egyptian. They did not assimilate into Babylonian culture, and apparently they didn't even follow Daniel, whose whole book is dedicated to Babylon is evil, we shouldn't assimilate, I'm going to trust Yahweh, he's my God. And Nebuchadnezzar continually gets humiliated as he apparently keeps trying to show that his God is true, and despite all the times that he all of a sudden changes, oh wow, your God is awesome, Daniel, I'm going to follow your God now. He then goes back and betrays. And so, yeah, it's not a real story. It was written with an intention. What's interesting is that prophets who deceive are similar to the priests who deceived King Nebuchadnezzar in the apocryphal book of Bel. Not Bel and the Dragon, two separate books. But everybody calls it the one title. And so in the story of Bel, the king sets out offerings to the idol god in the Holy of Holies. And seals it up, comes back the next morning, food's gone. Wow, God is real. He eats the food. I don't see it, he just does. There it is. It's proven. Clinically proven. It's so frustrating. There's a surge on that again on commercials now, as people are saying, oh, it's clinically proven, you can't get better than that. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Real scientific processes, not clinical proofs. There's no such thing as proof in science. It's confirmation. But anyway, and so Daniel says, "Oh, king, so gullible. Let me put out some powder on the ground, and we'll try it again." So they put the powder on the ground as they walk out, so that they don't step on the powder, because that would leave footprints. Yeah. And so the next morning, sure enough, hey, there's footprints. Where do they lead? The tent of the priests. The priests were purposely deceiving the people and the king in that he believed the God was real. And I don't understand why Mormons would believe in the supernatural first vision rather than Occam's razor. But yeah, the Brigamite prophets are acting just like the priests of Bel. I hear people nowadays, they always say Baal. No, it's not Baal, it's Baal. There's a little ayin that is the guttural, and I'm not even pronouncing it correctly myself, but at least I know Baal. And they're lying and deceiving us. We had the whole year last year about the bicentennial, which was a complete and utter failure because the prophets failed to warn us about coronavirus. And failed to protect us from coronavirus. And yeah, the whole concept that Heavenly Father and Jesus appeared physically to Joseph Smith and yet he's supposed to be able to see them face to face, not having been baptized, not having received the gift of the Holy Ghost, not having been through the temple with the loyalty oaths of obedience, sacrifice, gospel, chastity of 10 virgins, law of consecration, so that he can then pass through the veil and enter into the presence of God. He was able to do that. See, another contradiction, because they're false prophets. Whereas Occam's razor, oh, it's code. It's actually about William Morgan and the warning message to America that Joseph Smith, as the master mason of Canandaigua, New York, took on the responsibility of publishing the Book of Mormon. But no, that's too simple. You're humanizing the Smiths. You need to superhuman them. Remember when the church went through that whole phase that we're not supposed to humanize? Yeah, they're not human. They're superhuman. Like I said, the church is purposely creating the myth of the Smiths. They're trying to transition into that whole mythology now. That it never happened in reality, it was just a myth and it's part of the religion and blah blah blah. And then they can dismiss the Book of Mormon as the living president of the church is the true voice of the Lord. Sabbath is Babylonian. The Egyptians, every day is the Sabbath day. Oh, you tricked us, Travis. Yes, I did. Alright, and then we'll close with this one. Many are called, but few are frozen. There we go, 33 is where it starts. Alright, 34. Behold, many are called, and few are frozen. Why are they not frozen? Because their hearts are set so much upon the things of this world, and aspire to the honors of men. And so in the church, it's taken in two different ways. It's not just that you aspire to the worldliness of the heathens, and that you desire to be praised and honored by the heathens. It's also in the church. When an elder desires to become a leader in the church, he aspires to the honors of the church. And that's a bad thing. You're supposed to follow God, not aspire to leadership. Leadership is supposed to recognize your righteousness, not your butt kissing, not your nepotism, not your best buddy syndrome. Righteousness to then elevate you up into authority. It's not practiced in the church. And so those two methods need to be factored in here. That they do not learn this one lesson, that the rights of the priesthood are inseparably connected with the powers of heaven. What are the powers of heaven? Revelation. Listening to the Spirit. And that the powers of heaven cannot be controlled nor handled only upon the principles of righteousness. So hate, is that the principle of righteousness, Mormons? When they put a thumbs down on my videos? Is that them being righteous? Yeah, no. See, Mormons fell right into my trap. Mormons don't like me. Mormons hate me. They want me dead. They put thumbs down because if they aren't brave enough to put a hate comment that I can ban them from my channel, they'll just continually put thumbs down, knowing that that'll get me. It's the ad unpopulum argument. You may have heard of ad populum. Ad populum is when democracy is utilized for establishing truth. That's why democracy is so evil. And that's a false argument. Just because the majority of the people are doing it, just because the majority of the people vote for it, doesn't make it true. You can't have a majority of witnesses over the other side and win your case. Oh, I see that the plaintiff has 10 witnesses, but the defendant has 33. The defendant wins. That's not how it works. And so the ad unpopulum is what the Mormons are doing to my channel, thinking that if they can put the majority of thumbs down over the thumbs up, that therefore they'll prove to everybody else that, oh wow, the majority of people don't like this, and I guess this guy is wrong. Ad unpopulum. It's a false argument. And so, yeah, Mormons are not righteous. And I'm exposing that. That they may be conferred upon us. It is true. Yeah, it was conferred upon me, just as it is other Mormons. Laying on of hands. I turned of age, laid on hands. Was never for righteousness, but it may be conferred upon me. But when we undertake to cover up church history, our sins, or to gratify our pride, that's our will. I'm the prophet, follow me. Our vain ambition, get everybody infected with coronavirus so that I can have 10 virgins in 2024, or to exercise control or dominion or compulsion upon the souls of the children of men in any degree of unrighteousness. Lucifer's plan of happiness, taking away agency. Behold, the heavens revelation withdraws itself. You don't get revelation when you're doing bad, when you're being wicked, when you're putting the thumbs down on my video. You're not listening to the Spirit. And it's always interesting with not liked. Mormons come out and confess, when I listen to you, Travis, I don't feel the Spirit. But when I listen to the prophets and apostles, I feel the Spirit. You're not supposed to feel the Spirit. You're supposed to be angry because you're wicked. The Lord is grieved, the Spirit of the Lord is grieved, and when it is withdrawn, amen to the priesthood or the authority of that man. The authority is revelation, not the office. It may be conferred upon me, yeah, sure. But you are not a shepherd unless you are following the master. You have to be following revelation, following the Spirit. Otherwise, you're worthless. John DeLynn reposted a video about a mother who had reached out to the church for her son who was gay. Oh my God. I'm listening to the video again after all these years, and he just put it up on his new channel, and so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll listen to this again. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the child must be on its deathbed hoping that Holland would come and heal this kid. Must have had some kind of injury or sickness or disease, something that's really serious and needs a real priesthood blessing to heal the kid. And then about 5 minutes in, she then starts talking about him being gay. I'm going, oh man, what the, she was getting all teary-eyed and all this, and I'm just, oh man, seriously? John, how did you let this slip through? Of course the prophets are not going to heal somebody of being gay. Dear God. But, yeah. They're not listening to the Spirit anyway. John, are you smoking at your window? It's really annoying me. But we're at 50 minutes, so yeah, the Battle of the Prophets will have to be another video. But this is what you're looking for a prophet. The Book of Mormon goes over it, explains it very clearly. You have people who are not in authority, who hear the Lord and then act. They go and preach to the people about how wicked they are and warn them that destruction is coming. Over and over and over again in the Book of Mormon. And yet Mormons, yeah, I don't know. The prophet says this. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I need to go to church and sit in the front left this time, maybe not the front right. Or maybe it was, I should have listened to the Spirit and shunned that one Mormon. I knew he was evil. Because only evil people get coronavirus. So, yeah. That's it that I was able to come up with off the top of my head. And I'm sure there can be more. We can talk about the jackass. The talking jackass. About how he was paid. Balaam, I believe. Yeah, I believe it was Balaam, and then Barak or something like that was the wicked king who came to Balaam and said, hey, I'm giving you money here, curse the Israelites. He took the money, but when it came time to give the cursing, he couldn't do it. Apparently the Lord acknowledged him as a priestcraft false prophet, and he blessed Israel and talked about the prophesied star in the latter days, which everybody assumes was in the Roman period. No. But yeah, that gets into the authoritative prophet battle as a translator. Yep. Oh, I'm going to wipe his butt all over the floor. Stay tuned. We'll see if I can do it today or sometime soon. The Battle of the Prophets. I'll have to do this as a pre-game battle show or something like that for the title.